29% of the adult population of the United States is providing care to someone who is ill, disabled, or aged. For the next few minutes, we'll discuss issues as they relate to two emerging groups of caregivers: older adults caring for their adult children and military caregivers. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Robert Traynham. Joining me is Jed Johnson, Assistant Vice President at Easter Seals. Jed, welcome to the program.
Great to be here.
So what's interesting is we're seeing a lot of diseases come to fruition, i.e. autism, Alzheimer's. I mean, you're going down the list. Unfortunately, there's a lot. And what we're seeing is this pattern of adults taking care of their adult children. We'll get to military caregivers in a minute. Why is this coming more of a commonplace?
Well, first, I just want to give thanks to caregivers, because it really is,
Absolutely.
I mean, they're the backbone and the heart of our healthcare system, and really oftentimes sacrificing their own health at the expense of caring for others.
Thank you for bringing that. That's very important.
What we're seeing now is a growing number of individuals with lifelong developmental disabilities who are now aging. Oftentimes, they are independent in and of themselves. But as they themselves grow older, they find themselves being taken care of by their older adult parents. Oftentimes now, they themselves are in need of services and supports, and it's been interesting to watch that care transition as the caregiver oftentimes becomes the care receiver, and then trying to be more planful in engaging other family members in looking towards the future.
Let's talk about the second group, and then we'll go back to the overarching issue of caregivers overall, and that's military caregivers. Is there anything different from military caregivers as opposed to someone that may have a disease or a learned behavior?
Well, there's two. If you look at military caregivers, there was recently a RAND study that was released, sponsored by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. They've been taking great strides in moving forward and shining a light on the special needs of this population. There's a couple of different factors that relate to that. So first of all, there is the growing number of Vietnam-era veterans who are now turning 65 and growing older, who may be in need of care. And then secondly, there's the post-9/11 individuals returning home from Iraq and Afghanistan who may be wounded warriors, and they themselves are in need of supportive services. Now, that first population, those caregivers, as you're referencing, look very similar to the caregiving experience that I may have, for example, with my mother-in-law who's 88. That growing population, 1.1 million is the estimate. Those caregivers are very different and have a different experience and a different caregiving trajectory ahead of them.
Jed, we often hear over and over and over again that the caregiver is the one who gives so much, who sacrifices so much, oftentimes at the sacrifice of themselves, whether that's mentally or physically, or to your earlier point, health-wise. Are there any programs out there for our viewers that are watching at home for the caregiver, whether it's financial, emotional support, anything?
Absolutely. First, like looking at that military caregiver, I would encourage people to go. The Department of Veterans Affairs has an extensive caregiver support program. Easter Seals is privileged to be a subcontractor providing education and training for those caregivers. In fact, just last week, we trained our 20,000th caregiver over the past few years.
Wow.
They can go to caregiver.va.gov and get valuable information and support in response to that. Elizabeth Dole Foundation, just elizabethdolefoundation.org, as well as easterseals.com. And there's a growing group of organizations that are
reaching down and helping, if
exactly,
you will.
And kind of collectively coming together. Those of us from the nonprofit, corporations, faith-based, all really coming together.
Jed Johnson, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Robert Traynham. Have a great day. Bye-bye.